The season had only just begun when Parker Schnabel's crew stumbled upon something that seemed almost unreal. At first, it looked like just another shine in the soil, the kind of glimmer miners are trained to notice in an instant. But this one was different. The glow was stronger, deeper, and more stubbornly bright than anything the crew had seen before. As the machine stopped and the operator bent down to look, he realized there was more than just a few flakes of gold hidden under the damp layers of dirt. What emerged from that spot shocked everyone at the sight. It was a massive chunk of gold, so heavy that two men had to lift it together. The weight alone made jaws drop, and when Parker placed it on the scale, the numbers revealed the true impact of the find. It was worth almost $250,000 on its own, the kind of jackpot miners dream about their entire lives. For the outside world, this should have been a perfect moment. A new season, a massive discovery, and a crew standing around in awe of what they had just unearthed. But for Parker, the feeling was not the same. There was excitement, of course, but it was mixed with something heavier. His eyes, sharp and calculating as always, showed more fear than joy. He knew that gold this large was not just a blessing, it was also a burden. This discovery would bring problems he might not be ready to handle. It could divide his crew, attract unwanted attention, and pile on even more pressure in a season already filled with challenges. Instead of being the smooth beginning he had hoped for, Parker felt the jackpot might be the start of something far more dangerous. The crew, however, was caught up in the thrill. Some shouted in celebration. Others simply stood in shock at the sight of the gleaming rock. A few even whispered to each other, as if they couldn't believe their own eyes. This was the kind of moment miners told stories about, the kind of find that made all the sleepless nights, heavy lifting, and endless noise of machinery worth it. But beneath that excitement, a storm was already brewing. Questions began to rise. Almost immediately, who had spotted it first? Was it an accident that the machine stopped right there? Or did someone already know what was buried beneath the soil? Why was such a large piece of gold lying so deep in this particular spot? These doubts quickly spread across the camp, and though no one dared say it too loudly, everyone felt the tension building. For Parker, the situation was complicated. His dream this season was bigger than ever. He wanted not just to collect gold, but to make history with one of the largest productions of his career. He had brought in heavy machines, powerful dump trucks, and new faces on his crew to push the limits. The site itself was tough, filled with dangerous terrain and unstable ground, but Parker's determination was stronger. He had told himself and his crew that this was the year he would rise above every setback. The $250,000 gold piece should have been proof that his plan was working, yet the way it appeared, so sudden and so early in the season, left him uneasy. He knew gold mining came with risks, but this find seemed like it carried risks far greater than usual. As news of the jackpot spread across the site, small cracks in the team's unity began to appear. Some of the older crew members, who had worked with Parker for years, felt they deserved more credit for the discovery. They had been loyal, they had been through every hardship, and now this massive piece of gold was being lifted into Parker's hands, without their names attached to it. At the same time, some of the newer workers, eager to prove themselves, claimed that they had played a key role in uncovering the find. These whispers, though quiet, created an uncomfortable divide. In mining, teamwork is everything, and even a small disagreement can snowball into a bigger problem. Parker saw it happening, but knew he couldn't address it head-on without making things worse. Outside the camp, the story did not stay quiet for long. Someone from the site recorded blurry footage of the discovery and leaked it online. Within hours, social media was buzzing with excitement, rumors, and speculation. Photos of the gold spread across platforms, with captions claiming everything from the find being the biggest in gold rush history, to theories that Parker was hiding something even larger. Reddit threads filled with long discussions, YouTube videos popped up analyzing the footage frame by frame, and hashtags related to the jackpot began trending on Twitter. For Parker, this was an even bigger problem. He wasn't just dealing with his crew anymore. He was dealing with the entire world watching his every move. The theories grew stranger by the day. Some fans insisted that the gold Parker showed was only part of the story, that the actual find was much bigger and Parker was downplaying it. Others speculated that the site where the gold was discovered was not the true location at all, suggesting Parker had moved it from somewhere else to keep the real spot secret. A few even brought Tony Beats into the picture, claiming that Tony had known about the gold beforehand, and that Parker might have struck a deal with him. The more Parker stayed silent, the more the rumors grew. His refusal to explain every detail made people believe there was something to hide, even if there wasn't. Inside the mining site, problems only got worse. Machines that had been running smoothly began to break down one after another. Excavators stalled, dump trucks refused to move, and every repair took valuable time and money. Parker had invested heavily in this season, and every hour of downtime meant massive losses. On top of that, the weather turned against him. Heavy rain soaked the ground, turning firm soil into slippery mud. Small mudslides forced work to stop again and again, and Parker had to balance the risk of losing production against the safety of his crew. For a man already under pressure, the jackpot discovery had turned what should have been a bright start into a chain of problems. The crew began to feel the strain too. Arguments broke out more often, sometimes over simple tasks, other times over who was responsible for mistakes. Some workers quietly questioned Parker's leadership, wondering if his ambitions were too high and his risks too great. Others stood by him, knowing that Parker's vision had carried them this far. The split was subtle, but it was there, simmering beneath the surface. When trust is shaken in a team that depends on each other so heavily, even small cracks can grow into dangerous divides. Parker tried to keep control, but he could feel the weight of every decision pressing down harder than ever. Then came another shock. As Parker struggled to hold the operation together, local authorities and government officials suddenly appeared at the site. Their arrival raised even more questions. Were they there because of safety concerns, or was the gold discovery attracting attention at levels Parker hadn't anticipated? To the crew, it looked suspicious. Combined with the leaked footage and Parker's silence, the presence of officials fueled even more rumors. Some whispered that Parker had found not just gold, but something else. Perhaps an artifact or evidence buried alongside the jackpot that he didn't want revealed. Theories grew wild, but the tension they created was real. Parker eventually made a decision that left his crew shocked. Without warning, he ordered the site to be shut down temporarily. To the workers, this made no sense. They had just struck one of the largest single pieces of gold in recent memory, and instead of pushing forward, Parker was pulling back. Confusion spread like wildfire. Some believed he was prioritizing safety, others suspected he was hiding something. The crew whispered behind his back, and the more Parker refused to explain, the more the distrust grew. The truth was that Parker was caught in a trap of his own success. The $250,000 jackpot had brought him attention, but it had also brought chaos. The world expected him to build on that find and produce even more, but behind the scenes, his expenses were skyrocketing. The wages for his crew alone ate up massive amounts of money each week. Fuel costs for the heavy machines were climbing, and every breakdown meant even more expenses. Even with such a large jackpot, Parker knew the gold was just a small piece of what he needed to make the season profitable. The pressure of living up to expectations, both from his crew and from the watching world, weighed heavily on him. And with rivals like Tony Beats watching closely, Parker knew the season was only going to get more dangerous from here. The gold that should have united the crew instead began pulling them apart. At first, the arguments were small disputes over shifts, minor mistakes, or who had worked harder on a particular day. But as time went on, those small disagreements turned into sharper confrontations. Some crew members believed Parker was showing more trust toward the new workers, while the veterans who had been by his side for years felt overlooked. The newcomers, meanwhile, pushed harder, wanting to prove themselves worthy, which only made the older team members feel more threatened. What should have been a tight-knit team was slowly breaking into factions, each side feeling like they deserved more recognition for the discovery.